How many have read any of Prabhupada's books, such as the Bhagavad Gita? Has anyone read the Bhagavad Gita? Anyone here for the first time? Anyone here for the second time? The 50th time? So our philosophy is called Krishna consciousness. It's actually quite simple. That's why it's so difficult to understand. It only has two major parts of it. One is that we're all eternal, spiritual beings, in a temporary material body. And the other is that there's a supreme person who's the source of everything. So if you learn those two things, you know everything. But it's not so easy. Now there's a book called the Bhagavad Gita, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking to his friend Arjuna right before a battlefield. And Arjuna is a little nervous because in a battlefield things don't go always the way that you like them to go. So Arjuna begins to speak, and eventually he asks questions, and Krishna gives him an answer. And the answer is actually quite simple. That's why practically no one can understand it. Krishna says in Sanskrit, and don't worry, I can translate it. How many know, in case you don't know Sanskrit? Denosminita dehe kamaram yovanam jara tata dahantra praptir diryas tatra namuyati. That means that the deha means the body. So everyone here has a body. There may be a few people who don't have a body here, but I can't see them. Everyone I can see has a body, so that's one thing we all share in common. And another thing we share in common is that everyone's body is changing. I don't think anyone here is going to claim they have exactly the same body they had 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or that they'll have exactly the same body in 20 years from now. No, our bodies are always changing, but in spite of all the different changes of body, that we, the person who's aware of the body, we're always the same person. Now, what we're aware of is always different. The body that we had when we were 5 years old is not exactly the same body that we have now. And therefore the awareness of what we have now is different from the awareness we had when we were 5. Now I'm not only talking about the external body that we can all see, I'm also talking about the experience within our minds. The way we feel things is always changing. And our conception of life. Generally when we're 5, we have a 5-year-old conception. When we're 20, we have a 20-year-old conception. And when we become 80 or 90, then we have a 5-year-old conception. So it's always changing. So that's the beginning of the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, that we're all actually eternal, which should be pretty good news. Unfortunately, that we're eternally in a place which is not very comfortable. That's not very good news. Now, if you're going to be eternal, that's good, but you might as well be eternally in a nice place. Now, according to scientists, or at least some scientists, or so-called scientists, that actually we all came out of the apes, or something like that. Did anyone ever hear that philosophy from Darwin, that in the beginning there was nothing, or almost nothing? Anyone ever hear that philosophy? And then from nothing, nothing became bored, and Mother Nothing said, well, why don't you make something out of yourself? It's embarrassing. Whenever my friends ask me what my son does, I just tell them he does nothing. So after being bothered by Mother Nothing for so long, Son Nothing decided to make something of himself, and all he can do is make himself into a little bit of gas, which is not very much. So Mother Nothing said, is that all you can make yourself into, is some gas? That stinks. So, Son Nothing became angry, he exploded, he flew everywhere for a long time. And then Mother Nothing said, well, why don't you settle down? So he settled down and he evolved, and here we are now. So that's called science. Now, according to that science, that if it was actually true, that we should be able to trace our ancestry back and discover where we all come from. For instance, everyone here had a father and mother, isn't that right? Now, my mother told me I came from the stork, but at least that's the father and mother. But everyone here, generally speaking, had a father and mother who had a father and mother. And if we trace it all the way back, according to some ideas, that if we go far enough back, great-great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother, then we find out that one of them was covered with hair. His name was Grandfather Harry. And he happened to be swinging from a tree. He had this funny grin on his face, and he was married to Grandmother Lucy. And we go back, trace their ancestors, then we come to a sheep, a black sheep. And that's the black sheep in the family that everyone talks about. And we keep on going back, then we come to a mouse. That's Grandfather Squeaky. And we keep on going back, and finally we get to the most solid part of our family, which is a rock. And if we trace the rock's ancestors, we already examined the rocks. It came from some gas that exploded, which came from nothing. So this is called science. We personally call it science fiction. But this is more or less a part of the foundation of modern society, that we all were swinging, our grandfather and grandmother, so back was swinging from a tree, and then somehow or another gave birth to a human being. But that's not really within our experience. And science is actually supposed to be based upon empirical evidence. In other words, if it's not observable, they don't accept it. If we go to the zoo, we should be able to eventually find some monkey giving birth to someone that looks like our brother and sister. But actually we find that human beings sometimes give birth to living entities that seem like the monkeys. So we can't really say that we have any empirical proof that anyone evolved from a lower species of life. But the natural conclusion is that we all had fathers and mothers, and if we keep on going back, they must have been persons like we are. Otherwise, how did we become persons if the original person is not a person? If the original source of everything wasn't a person, how did we become persons? If you have the sun giving off heat and light, and if you go to the sun, you don't have to bring your overcoat with you, your winter coat, because there's plenty of heat and light there, because it's the source of the heat and light. Therefore, it has more heat and light, actually, than we can experience on this planet. So if we're persons, we have qualities like beauty and strength and knowledge and fame and renunciation and so many different things that we admire and we're attracted by. If you say, well, the original source of everything had no face, he had no arms. In other words, he's paraplegic. He has no legs. He has no face. He can't see. He's blind. He has no ears. He can't hear anything. He can't taste anything. He can't do anything. But we love him anyhow, because we feel sorry for him. No, we have eyes, we have hands, we have legs, we have so many things. How is it that the source of everything can't have the same things that we have? Now the question is, why is that we're not aware of where we came from? Why we're not even aware of who we actually are? What to speak of who we are, right now we're thinking ourselves to be something that we're not, namely this temporary body. Because we've had so many bodies, they've come and gone, so many feelings, they come and gone, so many perceptions of reality, they come and go. Even at night we dream, and suddenly we're in a completely different world. We may even be flying overhead. in some body which can, fly from here to San Francisco and doesn't have to go through security. And then we wake up and we're back where we are in this particular body, which has already changed. In other words, we have our daydreams, because now we think we're this body. At night, we'll think we're something else. And then we'll wake up, and who knows what we'll think. Now the question is, who's doing all this experience? Who's having all this experience? And why is it that we're in this material world, and everyone is eternal, but having all these material experiences? So our philosophy is quite simple, that if there is a supreme person who's controlling everything, and who can deny that we're being controlled? For instance, at every moment, everything's changing, but there's one thing besides ourselves that we're aware of that's not changing. Does anyone know what's not changing besides ourselves that we're aware of? What's that?
Karma.
Karma, yeah, that's true, yes.
Our awareness.
Awareness, that's part of the soul, of course.
Consciousness.
Consciousness is part of the soul. Time. Ever notice that time keeps on changing everything, but time doesn't change? It's not that we wake up one day and we find out that time got so old, it died. And now nothing changes anymore. So it's quite subtle, but time is influencing everything in the whole universe. It's changing everything. And yet time is not changing. Time is always maintaining its existence. It may be thought of being relative in different parts of the universe, but at least within our experience, time is always there. Sometimes it seems as it's going quicker thing. When you're having a good time, it goes very quick. And when you go to the dentist and you hear the drill, it seems to go very slow. But time is still there. So time is a factor which is also unchangeable, just like we are. And even the material nature is unchangeable in the sense that it's not really, isn't destroyed, it's just transformed. So the question is, why is it that we're eternal and we're under the control of eternal time? So the point is that we've been arrested. We're arrested, and therefore we're put into a temporary body. The soul has been arrested by something called Maya. Has anyone ever heard of Maya before? Yes, so Maya. There's a girl I know named Maya. It's not her. It's a different Maya. She's also a girl, but a little bit more powerful. So Maya's arrested us. And why has Maya arrested us? Because, basically speaking, we're trying to be something that we're actually not. Now, everyone loves their body. Isn't that right? Now, we're eternal souls, and we love our body. Just like we wake up in the morning, and we look into the mirror, and we ask the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? And everyone gets the same answer. My dear spirit soul, after many, many births of pious activities, you suddenly, within the mirror, the Supreme has been revealed to you. So please, worship that deity in the mirror and try to render unalloyed, uninterrupted service to that deity. And we become enlivened and inspired and light, and we desire to render service. So if we're a little pious, then we take a shower. In our language, we call that abhishek. We worship the deity, and then we feed the deity. First of all, we clothe the deity, we decorate the deity, we make the deity smell good, and then we offer different kinds of food stuff, different things for the deity to eat. And then after we're all done, we go out into the world to spread the glories of the deity everywhere, for the benefit of all human beings, all living entities. So actually, we're worshipers about we're worshiping this body right now. We're in love with it, because that's our nature. The soul is actually its nature is to love. It can't live without loving its very existence. Love also means service. When we love someone or something, then we try to please them. We try to render service to them. Unfortunately for us, as much service as we render to this body, it doesn't reciprocate the way we like it to. Like, for instance, we try very hard to keep it nice and fresh and young, and it keeps on growing older on us. And there's even rumors that sometimes people even die. Because I don't believe them, but there's rumors like that. Like one time our spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada, was in England. He was from India, Prabhupada. And the reporters were there, and they were asking Prabhupada, Swamiji, because they called him Swamiji, why is it that in India so many people are dying? So Prabhupada said, well, I've been here in England for a little while, but I've noticed that here in England people also die. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, the statistics is that in India the death rate is 100%, and here in England it's also 100%. And although everyone is trying to improve the rate, it doesn't seem to go down very much. So, more or less, we've been placed into a situation where we want to be eternal. As a matter of fact, if we can get just an extra year in our life, if we could take a pill and just get 5 extra years, or they tell us, like, I have some followers who teach different types of health modalities, and they say if you take this vitamin or if you take the supplement, statistically people live for 5 years longer. So people take it, they'll spend money because they want to live for 5 years longer, statistically. So what about doing something that you're going to live forever? No, that's too much. People don't realize that they can't believe that they could actually live forever, so why bother even trying? I just want to live for 10 years longer, or 5 years longer. But actually we are eternal. But our problem is that we think we're something other than we are, and when something that we aren't, which is temporary, that's what we're identifying, so we think we're going to have to disappear at some time. Actually, we disappear from this body, just like the sun appears in LA, and then right now it's not here. But I don't think anyone here believes that the sun has died. They used to believe that the sun would rise up, they call them aborigines, the sun would rise up at a certain time and was born. And then the sun would go down and everyone would cry, oh, the sun has died. But actually the sun never died, it just appeared from our sight. Just like if you have a puppet, and you have the puppet, and you play with the puppet, and everyone loves the puppet, puts on a nice show, and then you take your hand out of the puppet, and the puppet falls down. And everyone rushes to see what happened to the puppet, and they're giving it artificial respiration. Oh, puppet, come back to life again. And then they conclude the puppet's dead. The puppet's dead, and everyone starts to cry. They put it in a box, they take it to puppet graveyard, and everyone says nice things about the puppet, and then they go back, hoping they can find another puppet. But actually the puppet was never alive, so it couldn't die, and the person who was handling the puppet didn't die. So actually, there's no such thing as death, because we're eternal. We don't change when the body dies, or it seems to disappear, or dies. But the body was never alive, so it can't actually die. So again, the question is, if we're eternal, why are we placed in this temporary situation? So the ultimate answer is, because we're trying to be something we're not, and the person in charge of the whole thing, he actually is helping us fulfill our desire to be something we're not. That everyone is more or less, to some degree or another, trying to be the center of attention. And when we're the center of attention, we feel good. And when we're not at the center of attention, then we feel bad. Of course, we may feel good or bad for different reasons, but that's the attempt that everyone wants. They like to be recognized as being important. They like to be appreciated for what they are, or what they think they are, or what they can do, or what they think they can do. Now, since, as I said, there's something called Maya, and she's arrested us, because basically we're trying to be something, and do something, and take something which is actually not ours. And therefore, the solution to our problem is to find out who we actually are, who that soul, as the soul within the body, and what we're supposed to be doing. As a soul, what we're supposed to do. We know as the body, more or less, the needs that we have, what we're supposed to do. And one of the needs is love. So what would be the object of love? So we love that object, and by loving that object, we love everyone. We love everyone because everyone and everything comes from that particular object. So that's what we say Krishna is. Krishna is the object of love, and when we love Krishna, automatically, as much as we love Krishna, as much as we become aware of Krishna, then spontaneously, automatically, we become aware of who everyone else really is, and we love everyone else for what they really are. And that's the solution to all the problems. Now everyone's trying to be happy by stealing from Krishna, but they get into conflicts with each other. It's just like if a group of thieves rob a bank, and they all go to their hideout, and the head thief stands up and says, "My dear fellow thieves, you did a great job robbing the bank. All glories to the thieves." Everyone can repeat, "All glories to the thieves." Not really. In any case, then the head thief says, "My dear fellow thieves, now that we've stolen all this money, I only have one request to all of you. Please, please, let us divide this money up honestly." So they're all thieves, they've stolen so much money, but now they want to figure out how to become honest thieves. So if we want to actually have peace amongst ourselves, if we want to have peace in the world, then we have to understand who actually everything belongs to. And then when we utilize those things in the service of the actual person that it belongs to, it's not that we lose anything, because we had nothing to begin with. This body which we claim to be ourselves, we can't even control it. We can't even control one atom in the body. Now if you can't control something, how can you claim it's yours? Just like I have some money in the bank, and if you say it's mine, well good. You don't even know what my bank account number is. How can you claim it's yours? You have absolutely no control over it. And you keep on saying, "No, it's mine, it's mine." Well good, keep it. But you can't do anything with it. It's just a conception. Similarly, within this body that we have, who can stop one atom in the body from changing for a moment? Can one electron, stop, don't go any further. Even one atom in our body, can anyone do that? We don't even know what's going on in our body. What to speak of stopping anything in it. So we can't control it, we can't claim we can't do anything with it, we can't control it, we can't claim it's ours. Therefore, a thoughtful person will realize that actually it's going on with some intelligence, but it's not going on simply by my intelligence. Just like, for instance, if a scientist could create a male machine and a female machine, and when they got together they made little machines, wouldn't that be nice? For instance, if a scientist could create a male Rolls Royce and a female Rolls Royce, and when they got together they made little Rolls Royces, then all you do is have to feed a little bit of oil and gasoline, and they grow up, and everyone have. But I don't know of any scientists who has become so advanced they're able to do that. But I do know one scientist. His name is Krishna. He's made male and female bodies in 8,400,000 species, male and female machines. And when they get together, they make little machines to grow up and make other machines. So that's pretty good. For instance, if a scientist could make a machine, you put in grass in one end, and on the other end comes milk. Wouldn't that be nice? Even the vegans would drink the milk. But the scientists can't do that. But I know one scientist, he's made a machine, you put grass in one end, and out comes milk the other. Do you know what that machine is called?
A cow.
The cow, yes. So there's another scientist, he's done wonders. For instance, he's made an object, it rises up in the morning, gives the whole universe heat and light, and goes down at a certain time, and the heat and light is replaced by another body which cools the earth and gives light also. Now the scientist says it's all by accident. It just so happened. Of course the scientists say everything's by accident. But if it's an accident, if they know it was an accident, well, why don't they, with all their intelligence, they figured out what happened, so why don't they make a little ball of light, that big, and let it circulate in this room during the winter and give us free heat. And in the morning it could come up, we can put it in a little box and it can give us light. But the scientists can't even make a little ball of light like that. Otherwise, if they could make something that, if they can't even make a little ball that can do the same thing as the sun, how do they claim they know where the sun came from? How the sun's rising is appointed time, exactly on time. How the sun is going down for millions of years exactly on time. We make a watch just to try to measure what the sun is doing. Now the scientists are intelligent. They must have intelligence to make the watch. And they try to make it as precise as possible. But they can't duplicate the sun. And it won't last as long as the sun. So if it took intelligence to make a little watch, how much more intelligence would it make to make a sun? Now, even the scientists say everything is by accident, but they don't believe it. Because if everything was an accident, why don't they stay at home and by accident they'll get their PhD degree? Why don't they stay at home by accident, they'll become rich? Why are they working so hard? If everything came about by accident, why work so hard? Just stay at home and by accident, out of nowhere, all the money will come to you. But no one believes that. But if you proclaim that philosophy, they'll give you a PhD degree and you get some money, not by accident though. Anyhow, that's a little bit of introduction. Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say something.
Yes.
I think that we're in bondage of time and money.
What's that?
I think we're in bondage of time and money, and that doesn't really let us enjoy this experience sometimes, whatever we're doing here.
We're,
Because
what
you
with
said that
time and money?
We were like
In bondage.
What's that?
In bondage.
prison or in
Bondage,
jail.
yes, yes,
So we're like
that's
in
right.
bondage of time and money, because time doesn't exist, and money is just paper with green makeup on it. That's backed up by our own, consent. We give it value.
Yes, that's
So
right.
sometimes we don't enjoy this experience here because of the time.
Yeah, it would be nice if we were eternal. We are eternal, so we don't enjoy the experience. Well, for a number of reasons. One, it's not a very nice experience sometimes. Like for instance, birth. Although it's told to us, birthday parties. There's always the beautiful little kid there, and the swans are coming, and it's all pink and rosy. But I don't think that's the way exactly it happens. Matter of fact, as soon as you come out, the first thing they do is welcome. Their introduction. And I don't think anyone looks forward to old age. I can't wait till I get old. I can't walk or talk or see. Or disease. Wow, I'm too healthy, Give me that medicine that. And when we speak of death, we sing happy death, a birthday to you. But no one sings happy death day to you. So there's some problems in the experience. There may be some happiness here because no one would do anything unless they're doing, expecting to get some happiness. But there's a lot of things added on also that don't make it 100% pleasure. Like the weather is not always perfect, even in LA. everyone here isn't, always, I love you. As a matter of fact, sometimes the mosquitoes, although they kiss you, but they have a different purpose. And the body doesn't work the way we want it to. It makes all kinds of strange sounds sometimes, and does things that we don't want it to do. So, yes, we want happiness, and it's not 100% happiness all the time here. Yes?
You were talking earlier about how we're spiritual beings living in this physical body, and how kind of like the reason or the source of our disillusionment is that we ascribe like meaning or like ourselves to our body, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've come to realize this over the past couple of years, but I wonder, is there a step beyond just the knowledge where you can actually kind of like experience that, or
Yeah. Well, I'll briefly explain the process. The process is hearing real knowledge from the right source, with the right attitude, and then remembering it. Because if we hear something we don't remember, it's as good as not hearing it. And then when we hear it enough and we see it from different points of view, the same philosophy, because the philosophy in itself is simple, but it's difficult to understand because there's so many complexities in the world. We see it from different angles, and then we perceive it in this world, and then we become convinced, and then we act in a way with conviction to actually work for the benefit of all living entities as being brothers and sisters, part of the same spiritual family, and develop actually love for the Supreme and for everyone, and serve them equally. Then the result is that the Supreme gives us spiritual realization, and then we can actually perceive how everyone is actually who I am. And just like when the sun comes up in the morning, in the light of the sun we can see ourselves, we can see the sun, we can see everyone else as it is. So when we act the way we're supposed to in loving exchanges with everyone appropriately, then Krishna or the Supreme, reveals himself, and we understand everything ourselves and everything else perfectly again. And we can experience not only theoretical knowledge, because Krishna consciousness is not just like theory, it's actually an experience. We actually experience love and happiness, they go together. Then we develop all good qualities, because love brings all good qualities. Yes?
How do you know that, it seems in sort of what you're saying that there's this, in a way, a separation between you and Krishna consciousness. How do you know that that separation is actually there, and that there's not like some Maya or some illusion, and that it's actually the same, like I and the source are one and the same?
Well, we're not saying we're Krishna, of course.
Right.
We're saying that there is a person we're not aware of. I'm saying there's a person because we're a person.
Right.
We came from something, it must be a person too. And there's someone controlling this what we're perceiving, this universe.
Right.
There's some, it's not just going on accidentally. So he's a lot bigger than we are, a lot more powerful than we are. Now, how to understand that we're an illusion? Because unless we were, I don't know if that was the question or not, but
The question is how do we? I'm basically asking, like, how do we know that we're separate from that?
well, we're not separate from that. Because how can we be separate? Because as we go into our philosophy, we'll find out if Krishna is the controller of this universe, we're not separated from him, because we're in the universe. And there is a connection with him right now, eternally. We can't be separated from him. But what we're separated by is by our lack of awareness, that's all. We think we're separated, but we're actually not. So Krishna consciousness just means to wake up and find out what's really going on here. And then we'll find out we're not separated. We can't be separated. Yes?
So do you believe that we all, so like we said, like we're not separate from the universe because we are like tiny universes walking, it's all one, we are all one. So do you believe that we have all the potential to overcome all our sufferings? Because our sufferings are nothing but the negative causes or the negative functions that make us do something that we don't want to do. In a way, we forget our own potential as a human being, what it is, and we also believe that there's a purpose to come here, because of course life is not just about coming here, getting a birth, getting married, having kids and dying. I believe that there's more to it, to help somebody else going through a similar problem, like what I go through, my sufferings are. But first I have to win over them. So do you believe that I have all the potential to overcome any suffering it is, any deep-rooted cause it is?
Well, I'd say that we can overcome all suffering when we wake up to who we actually are. Because when we wake up to who we are, we'll find out our connection with the source of all happiness and pleasure. When we actually connect with the source of all happiness and pleasure, it can only be happiness and pleasure. But as far as this body, the body can't be the source of unlimited pleasure. Just like my finger. My finger gives, I mean, not this finger, this finger's giving me a little problems lately. But this one is being pretty cooperative. Now, I don't know what's wrong with it. Anyhow, but it's all right. But if I take a hammer and smash it, it's going to be a problem. Now, it wasn't giving me so much happiness, believe me, but it can give me a lot of problems. Now, the point is, if you cut off the finger, I could probably, for a while, continue on the talk, but I got to leave pretty soon anyhow. So, I'm not the finger, but the finger could give me a lot of misery. Right now, it's not giving me misery. But I myself am a spirit. I'm a person who's aware of the finger. And I can connect, when I connect with the source of all pleasure, I myself, my consciousness connects with the source of all pleasure rather than just my finger, then I can experience unlimited pleasure. But I'm not going to help it. This finger is not going to last forever, believe me. If you don't believe me, just stick around. So yes, we can solve all our problems. We can become unlimitedly happy and blissful, but we have to connect with the source of that bliss and pleasure.
Thank you.
So I have to go now because otherwise I'm going to be here a lot longer in LA than I was expecting. I'm supposed to fly to Brisbane tonight, Australia. Anyone from here, Australia? No one from Australia. Well, anyhow. Anyone ever been to Australia? Okay. Anyhow, LA is nice too. Thank you very much.